All right, let's talk about an ancient recipe for the future. And it involves two things you probably wouldn't put together: tiny little millet grains and big, juicy peaches. Yeah, it sounds like a weird combo, but trust me, these two foods tell an incredible story about how early civilizations literally built the future.
So really, what can a tiny little grain and a simple fruit teach us about building a whole civilization? How could they possibly hold the key to human ingenuity nearly 8,000 years ago? Well, the answer? It reveals a level of planning that is, frankly, just mind-blowing. Okay, so let's introduce our two main characters here. In one corner, you've got Foxtail millet. Think of it as the fast, practical, super reliable one. You plant it and boom, you get food pretty quick. But in the other corner, you have peaches. And peaches, well, they're all about the long game. They're about patience, an investment that takes years to pay off. See, these aren't just plants. They're basically two completely different ways of thinking about how to survive. So this gets us to our first big idea. Moving to farming, it wasn't some happy accident. It wasn't like someone just tripped over a seed and figured it out. No, it was a whole series of really smart choices. People in ancient China didn't just stumble into agriculture, they actively designed a system, using this unlikely duo specifically to lock in their future. Okay, before we get any deeper, let's just quickly get two terms straight, because they're super important here. First, cultivation. That's just the hands-on work, right? Tending to a plant. But then there's domestication, and that's the long game. That's when our choices over generations and generations actually start to change the plant's DNA, to get us bigger fruit or better seeds. All right, let's dive into the first piece of this puzzle, millet. You gotta understand, this tiny little grain was the bedrock. It was the practical, get-it-done solution to the most basic problem, hunger. You could even say it was the engine that powered early village life in this part of the world.
So, why millet of all things? Well, it was kind of the perfect plant for the job. For one, it could totally handle the dry weather around the Yellow River. It also has a really short growing season, so you get a quick return on your effort. And maybe the most important part, you could dry it and store it for winter. That right there, that was a total game changer. And here's the crucial bit. Having all that storable millet meant communities could finally build up a surplus of food. It's kind of like having a reliable checking account, right? It gives you that day-to-day security. People weren't just living hand to mouth anymore. For the first time, they could actually plant. But how in the world do we even know all this stuff? Well, it's all about the amazing clues archaeologists dig up. We're talking about finding tiny, carbonized, basically burnt seeds in old fireplaces. We're talking about the actual grinding stones they used to make flour, and even microscopic plant fossils. It's like a trail of ancient breadcrumbs that leads us right back to them. Okay, so that's millet. Now, let's switch gears and talk about our other main character, the peach. And if millet was that reliable checking account for right now, the peach? Well, the peach was the long-term investment plan. I mean, just think about this timeline for a second. You plant a peach pit, and then you wait and wait. You might get a few little fruits after, 3 years? But a real, full, reliable harvest, you're looking at 7 years, maybe even more. That requires a serious commitment. You have to decide to stay put, and you have to believe that the future payoff is absolutely worth all that waiting. And get this, archaeologists have found evidence that people were doing this, cultivating peaches, in China, going back about 8,000 years. 8,000! That just goes to show you, this kind of long-term thinking, this planning for the future, it's been part of our human toolkit for a very, very long time. And this is where we see domestication in action. The proof is in the pits, literally. See, over thousands of years, the peach pits archaeologists find start to get bigger and bigger and bigger. There is no other explanation. It's a crystal clear sign that people were on purpose picking the trees with the best fruit and breeding them for a better harvest. Okay, so we've got our two players, right? The fast grain and the slow fruit. The quick win and the long-term investment. So now, let's put them together. Let's see the absolute genius of this prehistoric super system they created. This really lays it all out, nice and simple. You've got millet, the annual staple. That's your short-term security, your food checking account. And then you have the peach, the perennial investment. That's your long-term stability. It's basically an ancient 401k. One takes care of the bills right now, and the other makes sure you're set for the future. And you have to realize this wasn't an accident. This was a brilliant, sophisticated strategy for managing risk. Think about it. If a drought hits and your millet crop fails one year, well, your established peach orchards are probably still going to give you something. It was a diversified portfolio, ancient farmer style. And this newfound stability, it just kicked off this incredible chain reaction. A stable food system, that means the population can grow, and that leads to bigger, more permanent villages. And once people are staying in one place, you just see this explosion of new ideas and technologies. We're talking better pottery to store all that food, more advanced tools, and the beginnings of complex societies.
So, what's the big lesson here? What can this really old story about food teach us today?
I think it really boils down to this. Those early farmers, they were thinkers, they were planners, they were innovators. They weren't just trying to survive day to day. They were consciously, deliberately building food systems that could handle anything, balancing what they needed right now with what they would need way down the road. They were literally building a future for their children. And that just leaves you with this amazing thought, doesn't it? If a single ancient peach pit can tell us this whole incredible story about planning for the future, just imagine what other secrets are still out there, waiting for us to find them, hidden in the little fragments of our past. Thanks for joining me